What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be reviewing the top 5 most common persona names. Go to this timestamp if you want to see my research and methodology. Otherwise, I'm going to get right into it. The number 5 most common persona name is Nova, which I know two people named Nova, so I wasn't really expecting this one. I think Nova's a pretty name. And number 4 is Kai. I was not expecting this one at all. This one's not a stereotypical furry name whatsoever. I think it's a really cool name. I'm guessing 10 years ago you would not have seen many people named Kai. So before I move on, I wanted to point out that the names that I'm using all have between 40 and 46 occurrences in my data set, which is fur track, and I'll get to that in a moment. But fur track has over 25,000 different furries are on there, different persona names. So if you have one of these allegedly common names, it's actually not that common. You still have a unique persona name. Number 3 most common persona name is Red. And whoa, that's a cool, I'm wearing all red right now. Red's a cool name, man. I don't personally know many people named Red, and there might be a reason behind that, and I'll get to that later in the video. Number 2 most common persona name is Jack. Jack is a pretty cool name, kind of like Red. There's not a lot of people that I know named Jack, so this is kind of a shocker. The number 1 most common persona name is Shadow. So here are the rest of the top 100 names. So, how did I come up with all these calculations? In order to do this project, I needed to find a database with a lot of furry names. And the first place I turned to was Bark. Unfortunately, I couldn't get data from Bark. I didn't really know how to do that, but I did figure out how to get data from FurTrack. So FurTrack is a huge database of photos of all these different types of fursuiters. It has over 25,000 fursuiters on it, which is great for me. However, data from FurTrack is really biased because, first of all, it's only fursuiters. People with fursuits are more likely to have a little bit more money, probably, be more independent, be more dedicated to the furry fandom, have been in the fandom for longer, and probably more confounding variables too. So all these variables are going to bias the data and give me names that aren't necessarily representative of the whole fandom. If there's a name that's been trending recently with younger furries, that's not going to be reflected in this data. And there's a few names that I saw, I was like, there are more people named that in the fandom. I'm sorry. But anyways, so I copy pasted all of the names and I put it on a Google Sheet. And what's unique about FurTrack is everybody has to pick a different username. So everyone has to pick a different name that identifies their persona. And what people commonly do is they choose their persona name and they do an underscore and then they put their species or some other identifying factor. So what I was going to do with that is I could just take the first part of every persona name until the underscore, and that's their name. So for example, if it's Arka underscore Shepherd, the only name that would go into my program would be Arka, because the underscore is there and that delineates it. Some people use hyphens, some people use parentheses without the underscore. If the code reached any of those characters, it would pick whatever was in front of it to be the persona name. I ran into an issue because some furries format their names as name, the, species, in one continuous word, and my code, when running through that, would pick that entire thing as one name, which is a problem because, for example, we have this beautiful fursuit named Red the Tiger. If someone's name is Red the Tiger, their name is Red and their species is Tiger. Their name is not Red the Tiger, their name is Red. At least in my opinion, Red the Tiger, if you're watching this and your name is actually Red the Tiger, please let me know and so I can correct this. But I assume that their name is Red. Another issue I ran into was that people spell their names in different ways. And some names have more spelling variations than others, and I would consider those spelling variations to all be the same name. For example, take the name Alex. You have Alex, you have Alex, you have Alex, and you have Alex. I think they're all Alex, honestly. If a name sounds like Alex, it's Alex. That is what I consider Alex. So with the top 36 names, I literally was scrolling through my spreadsheet with Control Find, deciding whether a name is a name. Now you may be wondering, Arka, what if there's a name that wasn't in the top 36, that would have had enough of those strange occurrences to push it into the top 10? And I will say that's almost certainly not the case. The original top 10 and the modified top 10 had 9 of 10 of the same names, and the only name that was off there was because I personally picked it off, and that name was King. A lot of people on FurTrack format their names King, underscore something else. People, when they do that, they use the word king as a title and not their actual name. So the number was getting inflated for king, so I was kind of like, we're getting king off this list. There's a lot of people who are named King, just not that many. The biggest issue I faced when going through all of my data manually was deciding what names count as what. So, for example, Red the Tiger. Red the Tiger is probably red. I would consider that as red. What about Red Wolf? See, some people would say that's not red, that's Red Wolf. I consider myself Arka Shepherd, not Arka the Shepherd. So what's the difference between Arka Shepherd and Red Wolf? It's name, species. So Red Wolf is still red, right? Maybe, I don't know. What about Red Wolf? See, this is wolf with a U, which is like, is that a species or is that a name? Like, wolf could be either one of them. If that counts as Red Wolf, what about Red Shadow? Because now you have a different word that's not a species, but it's still another word. So it's like, is Red Shadow red? What is red? Where do you draw the line? So I personally included Red Wolf with a U and not Red Shadow. So what I ended up doing was, anytime there's a name and then a species, if it's just name and species, no matter how it's spelled, if I can tell that it's a certain species, then that counts as that name. So Red Wolf is red, Red Shadow is Red Shadow, which is actually pretty cool because Red Shadow, the very, very cute person, by the way, their name is a combination between two of the most common names, but if you're listening to me in my methodology, Red Shadow is the only Red Shadow, so Red Shadow is tied for one of the most unique names in the fandom. So it depends how I classify things. Is Red Shadow generic or is unique? I'm sure Red Shadow is a very unique and lovely person, but is their persona name unique? I think it is, but I don't know. So a really interesting fact that I found that's not related to this at all was that the people with the name Bean just don't have a lot of photos by like a significant margin. So I believe the average amount of photos for every person on FurTrack, if I calculated this correctly, is about 17. And people with the name Bean, there are 11 of them, and they average about 3 photos on average, which is insane. Like, there's gotta be some sort of factor that is causing people with Bean to just not have photos. So anyways, I did all this stuff. I did a lot of thinking. I'm bad at thinking. It hurts my head. But I spent a few hours on this, and I thought this might be cool to share with the whole world. For me personally, I thought the name Thunder was going to be on the top 10, but it was not even close. Again, just because you have a name that's on this list or a name that's on the top 100 or whatever, doesn't mean you have a common name. All of these names have, like I said, at most 46 occurrences out of 25,000. That's like hardly anything. It's the most common of a very wide, diverse set of unique names. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful and have an amazing day. For y'all that are going to be at TFF in like a few days, I'll see you there too, baby. And that's going to be a lot of fun.